Okay, let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 9, Data Design. I've abbreviated this chapter quite a bit. This is almost a database class, and I don't want to go there. So I'm going to go through my whole goal for this chapter right here is to get you to do another model. I'll show you that model towards the end of this right now. So let's jump right in here and see what we can get. The data relationship is what I'm concerned with this time. You'll be doing an entity relationship diagram, otherwise known as an ERD. And I'm not going to worry too much about cardinality and cardinality notation. Normal, I'll worry about normalization. I will be careful now because there's some quiz questions and test questions on these, so make sure you understand that. The reason why I don't spend a lot of time on normalization is that this can get a little bit detailed, and I don't want to tie up your time with this right now. I'd rather you learn how to look at the relationship between entities. Would mean a whole lot more than this. We will discuss briefly warehousing and data mining, and we've already talked about logical and physical of what we're doing. So data structures, what are they? Files, tables, somehow that we can learn about entities, people's, places, things, or events. Mario and Danica are using a file-oriented system for their shop to set up for a mechanic shop. Let's look at that. See the mechanic system on the left, Danica's auto shop on the right, and then the job system. Now these, again, this is Access, Microsoft Access, and Access is looking at the relationships up here. What does that mean? If you'll look on the right side, you'll see the mechanic and see the job. Notice how that the mechanic number on the job is related. Notice the line that is connected the mechanic number on both the mechanic and job. So you'll see that, and this can become problematic, and I'll show you in a minute how to fix that. But again, this gets a little deeper than I want to go in database. So file processing, is it important? Absolutely. But now there are more simple ways to do this. As we'll see, your database management system, or the DBMS, is controlled by a database manager. If you'll look at the system to the right on that model, the inventory, order, production, and accounting, then this can be designed such that it would work. Administrators, I talked about the DBA. By the way, very good paying job if you like database work. Very good paying job. A database administrator would, right out of college, would usually computer science or a business computer degree that excelled in Excel and Access would probably get 60, 70 out of school. Within 5 years, be making over 100. I don't know of any DBAs that make less than 100, so pretty good money. If that's what you're after. Look at some of the definitions. We've talked about these already. I've mentioned. Let me think. I haven't mentioned tuple, but I have mentioned record. So, anyways, you can look at the definitions up here. Do you need to know these? Absolutely. Have different fields that are unique to a file, unique to a record, and so that's what you need to know. The primary key is something that is unique. For instance, and I have mentioned this already, but for instance, you all have an 800 number. That is a unique number to you and you alone. Same as your Social Security number. For privacy issues, Western cannot use your Social Security number. Also, too, some international students do not have a Social Security number, so we use their 800 number use everyone's 800 number to uniquely identify you. A candidate key can be any field that can serve as a primary key. So you can kind of think about this. A foreign key and then a secondary key. I'll let you look at the definitions of those. Referential integrity. Normally when you're setting up a database, you would enforce that. What does that mean? It allows a set of rules to be enforced. If that is not checked, then you can have some problems with this. And so without going any deeper than that, it would allow you to check those. So, entity relationship diagram, that's my main focus this time. I want you all to learn how to look at an entity and how they're related. A doctor treats a patient. A doctor treats a patient. And that's the relationship that it has to be right here. You have multiple relationships. You have a one-to-one, which is a doctor treats a patient. You could also say a doctor treats many patients. And so that becomes a one-to-many. And again, I've mentioned this already. I'll let you look at this just for a second and see what this is. Now let's look at a one-to-many. Notice the difference. It's important you understand this. Now, this can be a little bit, if you mention a generic automobile, then it can be a one-to-many, but I probably wouldn't use this example right here because if I own my car, I'm the only one that owns my car. So therefore, that's a one-to-one. But you can say individuals own cars, then that can become a one-to-many. So please understand the difference. A many-to-many relationship, then I've mentioned this already, multiple students in multiple classes, multiple passengers on multiple flights, and so on and so forth. You have to be able to work with this, but you can't do it the way it is right now. So here are the different relationships. You're going to draw something like this, by the way. So I would take note of this on how these relationships work. Cardinality. I promised you I wouldn't spend a lot of time on this, and I won't. But I would like you to see the cardinality as opposed to the ordinality. And you can Google those if you'd like to get a better understanding of those. You can see the notation right here. I'm not going to ask that you do any of the notation. You can if you want. You don't have to. I take that back. You need to do that. If you don't, let's go back and brief that just a minute. If you don't, look at this notation, and this will give you an example of this. Then you don't know whether it's a one-to-many or many-to-one or many-to-many. So you do need to understand that. So please, when you do your drawing, make sure you put the cardinality in there. But that's all I want you to do is put it, not really explain it or anything like that. Data storage and access. Again, I told you this would be quick. This chapter, I took out about half the slides, so this chapter could be long and painful. I'd like it not to be. Somewhere you got to store all this data that you collect. Input data. Look to your left and see the sales information. See the warehouse. What is accessing the warehouse with the cloud, and then the results. What would happen and what this would be used for, along with the data mart. Data mining. That's done right now. You do that without realizing it. If you go in and look at an account online, then you are doing data mining. You're doing your data drilling. And if you go in and look at your account and your checking account online and pull out a particular purchase, you've just done data mining. That's very rudimentary, but that is data mining. Logical storage, physical storage, we've again discussed this already. Data coding. Look at ASCII. You're using that every day. You probably don't realize that, but ASCII is being done. And you have the Unicode Consortium right here, and data access and storing data, the ISO. Is how that is done. Data control, and your backup data, backup copies of database must be retained for an optimal amount of time, usually a minimal amount of time. And here's your activity. Now here's your relationship diagram, and get an idea. There's your examples if you've forgotten. This is just an example I pulled offline. Yours probably won't be this elaborate, although I would expect some detail. Then I've asked you to design a table that encloses, and look at that. There's examples in the book. I was going to put an example out here, but if I did, then you may use that example. I'd rather you didn't use that specific one. I kind of want to see what you come up with. So look at the different types of keys and then design your table. This will help you understand the different types of keys that are used in a database. So I visualize a table with multiple keys in it and some examples based on the model that I gave you, or the case that I gave you to look at. So again, this is a quick chapter. I'm more interested this time in you getting a entity relationship diagram out of here. So that's all I have. Good day.